The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
So on our Thursday dialogue this morning, we're discussing what happened in Parliament yesterday, and I'm joined by the usual suspects because you enjoy their analysis always. So I got them together to come on the show this morning because we normally do this post-SONA thing after every State of the Nation address. They give us their analysis, we dissect what happened and tell you what was happening behind the scenes as well. So I've invited them so that they can also talk to us about this unprecedented moment. So I'm joined by EWN political editor, Tshidi Madia, EWN parliamentary journalist, Lindsay, Dentlinger. Tshidi doesn't like it when I say reporter. It's like, reporter? No. So Lindsay, journalist, and of course the Midday Report host, Mandy Wiener. So we'll be dissecting and analyzing what happened, what led to that postponement of the budget, what happened behind the scenes, and what this unprecedented moment means for the future of this GNU. So if you want a summary of what happened yesterday and what it means, this is a conversation you want to listen to this hour. And the nice thing is, you're not just listening to us. You can actually watch us as we have this conversation. So you can go on our YouTube or you can go on Prime Media Plus if you want to watch this conversation. The links are also on our social media platforms as well. Tshidi, thank you so much for coming through. You've got makeup this morning. Were you doing TV? Because, yeah, I always say that to Mandy. When Mandy comes with makeup, I'm like, where were you talking this morning? Or where are you doing a keynote?
Yes, I do look pretty, Clement. I'm going to be doing a EWN explainer on the politics around what we witnessed yesterday in just a bit, yeah.
Okay, Mandy Wiener, thank you for making time an hour before your show.
Thank you for not wearing makeup on my show today.
Tshidi the only one with makeup. Lindsay, Lindsay looks like also she's got makeup. But you also doing TV, Lindsay.
Lindsay's always fabulous
Would you
and gorgeous.
do this with male guests?
Yeah. I would.
I
really
love
would.
women because they're going to put you in your
Look at
place.
Snazzo, it's like,
But Clement
yes.
would. Oh,
Yeah.
everybody's like, Womanda.
Yeah.
But Clement
I'm
would,
being
man.
attacked.
I'll give him that. I'll give you that. I'm
Yeah.
seeing
This is what happens when you have three
I
women on a
would.
panel.
True. Lindsay Dentlinger, thank you for also making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement and Mandy and Tshidi.
Okay, so
It's weird not to be with you, but
I know.
Yeah.
We're with you in spirit. I can see Lindsay, by the way, on because technology can see on our screens here. Lindsay can see us as well. So perfect. Okay, let's begin with just what happened yesterday. I want you guys to be honest. Were you shocked or did you expect that? Because I was like, what is that?
I went shopping
Yeah.
because I thought everything would be fine.
Yeah.
And I thought,
thought
it's
so
the
too.
budget. I'll listen. I had my AirPod in, like
Yeah.
I'll listen to it. And then I was like in the middle of Sandton City
Yeah.
going, oh my God.
What's going on?
Can I tell you? So obviously I'm part of the EWN team and I'm involved in a lot of operational planning around SONA and budget. When the budget conversation came up, I was like, no, there's no need for us to go to Cape Town. Hey, they can take care of themselves. It's budget. It's so simple. It's so stable. We know exactly what to
What's
expect.
gonna
It's in and
happen.
out.
Yeah.
Yesterday at 2:00, I look up and I'm like, why is there nothing happening? That's really unusual.
Very unusual.
I was completely gobsmacked. I mean, I ended up in this very studio with Stephen Curtis from The Money Show and Lebohile. Also, all of us just shocked. Like, what is unfolding? The one thing you expect is for stability around the budget. And so, no, none of us. I didn't see that coming.
Lindsay Dentlinger, were you in the lockup? No, you were in the lockup. So you went there much earlier. You saw the speech. You knew what was going to come out. What was happening behind the scenes before we were told there's a postponement? What were you guys being told?
So just for context, Clement, yes, most of the journalists arrived somewhere between 6 and 7 o'clock yesterday morning. We all, those of us who have offices there, we all went into our offices. We all got handed the budget documents. Everything went along pretty much like a normal budget lockup goes, with the exception, though, for our listeners who don't know, we do have a press conference with the minister, usually after He's already been to cabinet. He comes to talk to us about 11:30, something to 12, and he gives us, depends on who the finance minister is, sometimes a short little speech. Sometimes they will say to us, well, you've got the speech, ask us questions. And that goes on for about an hour or so. And then it's lunchtime, and then we get ready for the budget speech. Yesterday was slightly different in that press conference happened already 2 hours earlier than we would normally expect. And the finance minister explained that to us, saying it's got to do with the president's diary, and we're just trying to, get the meetings and everything done. But there were no indications that what would unfold would eventually unfold. In actual fact, shortly before 1 o'clock, around 10 to 1, we were given the speech. It's always a touch and go, and not every year do we get given the speech. But when you get given the speech, it's almost a fait accompli. There are no last minute changes, and you're handed the speech and you can start prepping. At about, bearing in mind, I'm not allowed to leave my office till 2 o'clock, till the finance minister says, Madam Speaker, I cannot leave, so I cannot go into the dome. But I have quite a line of sight from the position of my office. I heard the bells ringing, which is quite normal, across the street from where the dome is and where they are sitting now. And so we thought it was all business as usual. And until we started to watch the television, and then my colleagues across the corridor were coming in and saying, what's going on? Why? Things a bit late. We saw all the MPs walking up the road. And at about 2:10, I thought, this is rather weird. And I was looking at the TV screen and I thought, let me phone somebody who's inside there. Because by that time, Treasury had even given back our phones, which they also don't do because they never know how leaks might happen. But we even had our phones back. So that just goes to show how no one saw this coming. Yeah. And I called somebody in the venue and said, what's going on? And he said to me, this thing is not going to happen. And I thought he was joking with me. I said, are you sure? And he said, hang on, call me in 10 minutes. Well, in 10 minutes, the speaker arrived to tell us this wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Lindsay just made me miss the Treasury days. Remember, have you done that? I've done the lockup as well in Pretoria. There's times when they would lock up teams in Pretoria and in Cape Town. They still do it now? I just missed that. Yeah.
Tambo was in Pretoria yesterday while the Party team was in the lockup in Cape Town. I've done the Cape Town lockup once. Yeah. It is,
you take your phone and you're stuck there. Okay, Mandy, I want us to start with the postponement. There are different schools of thought here. I said to the listeners this morning, I don't think this should have been postponed because I just feel like it's causing a lot of confusion. The markets react, the currency gets affected. I think allow for a parliamentary process. The whole process of parliament is you table it, you debate it. If there are disagreements, you can amend it. That way you can have discussions with all your GNU partners as long as it's tabled. But now the process has to start from scratch. What are your thoughts on what happened?
So the reality is the country was taken to the brink yesterday. It really did come down to 2 o'clock, and then a decision was made at 2:10. So with hindsight, you could argue maybe this should have been resolved before. The only, from what I can understand, is the question is, when did the DA actually know, and the other political parties, the GNU partners, know about this potential 2 percentage point increase? Bear in mind, of course, that Asha Sarupen is a deputy finance minister and is from the Democratic Alliance. So how early did he know? The Freedom Front Plus's Peter Groenewald has said that this wasn't presented as part of the presentation to the cabinet Lekgotla because some of it is market sensitive, according to the finance minister. So how much time do they have to actually resolve this beforehand? And one of the questions I've asked John Steenhuisen is, was this just political leverage? Did you take it to the brink so that you could demonstrate the power that you had? And he said, absolutely not. He said that wasn't the case. Now, from what I understand is that had the budget been presented by the finance minister, it then gets debated, but the process to challenge the budget is far more laborious, and it can take a very long time, and it gets tied up in parliamentary committees in order to actually pass the acts that implement the budget. And that's why they didn't want that to happen. And I'm sure Lindsay can explain this much better than I can. But that was my understanding, was that they didn't want him to actually present the budget because then it makes it far more difficult. They rather wanted to stop the budget from being presented, and then they could agree on a budget and then presented. Otherwise, we would find ourselves in all kinds of complicated terrain that we haven't navigated before.
The big question, Tshidi, is when did the DA know, right? So the DA has been saying that, well, they've been negotiating with us about this VAT increase and we've been saying no. And yet Treasury still took the risk to say, we are going ahead with the budget. We're going to have this meeting a few hours before because they thought what? They're going to just say yes?
Sign off and that's the beauty of coalition talks, right? A coalition relationship is that you actually get to test your might. I do give the DA credit and some of the parties for recognizing a moment. I don't give the DA credit for being the reason why this didn't happen. They recognize a moment because in the room, what you did have, Clement, are even ANC members who rejected the idea of a 2% VAT increase. I think it's interesting to figure out when did the DA know. I listened to John Steenhuisen this morning in an interview saying they knew a fortnight ago. You saw weekend reports.
Yeah, he said the same thing to me a fortnight.
Yeah, a fortnight ago. You heard weekend reports where they claimed that there was talk about it, but there wasn't a percentage. That there is an issue around what was the percentage. Even down to the minister yesterday speaking about where he believed the leak came from, saying it's from cabinet colleagues. I understand from insiders that on Monday he did meet with the officials in the ANC, Enoch Ndongwana's minister, and the 2% did come up there and was widely rejected by people in the top 7 of the ANC. However, they themselves remain divided, with some say, well, it looks like there is no other way forward, that we are stuck. Others saying, why would we agree to that? That would be the ANC writing literally its own grave. It understands that it'll be sending itself to the grave if it had agreed to that. So there's this weird back and forth about who knew what. What I do know is caucus members said to me, they woke up to this statement, the speech being leaked to them, and that's the only time they found out about 2%. These are ANC caucus members telling me this, saying that in the past you would have a Tito Mboweni coming to brief us. So even they were seemingly left out in the cold. So there's a lot of people who should have been part of the journey, never mind the parties in the GNU, who say that we're completely left blindsided.
Yeah, and Lindsay, I mean, we're not talking here about a 0.5% increase in VAT. We're talking a 2% increase. That is not small feat. I mean, the last time we had a VAT increase was back in 2017, 2018, and that was a big moment in itself. So was this a miscalculated risk? And also help us clarify also what Mandy is saying there about the processes that would have just made it so difficult once it is tabled and there are still disagreements.
Clement, I just quickly want to pick up with what Tshidi was saying, and we heard this also from Kumbutsu Ntshavheni, the minister in the presidency, saying, well, it's not just the DA or the PA or the Good Party who disagreed, the ANC members also. What I would be curious to know is that if this was an ANC majority government, would those ANC members who are opposed to this have had the courage of their conviction to put a stop to the budget? Because we know in the past, yes, one or two of them here and there will tell us, oh, we don't agree with this, we don't agree with this. But when it comes down to the vote, everybody toes the line always and goes with it. And so would 5 or 6 or maybe 2 or 3 ANC ministers perhaps in cabinet who said we don't agree with this VAT increase, would they have stopped a budget yesterday? I don't know. I think they might have been unhappy, but it would have gone ahead. Be that as it may, if you go through the budget documents, which late yesterday the Treasury then said, oh, well, okay, it's open season, enough of it is out there. There's a table in the very big documents that we get to go through that compares emerging markets and their VAT increases. And if you look at the table that they presented and you compare us, say, for example, with our BRICS partners, then this 2 percentage point increase would not be too far out of kilter. I think this would only have put us above Botswana in our region, but Brazil, India, and I think China, they would all be above us if we were to compare apples with apples. And it's part of those budget documents that didn't get tabled yesterday. So apart from this VAT increase, there was almost, I had said to Tshidi, I thought, gosh, we're going to have an early day. This is all quite locked down, because sometimes we get in there and we're so overwhelmed. And even today, we are so overwhelmed by this VAT increase that we haven't actually looked at what the other things were that are being proposed. And in fact, it was very little. This was the biggie. This was the shocker. But in previous years, we were so bogged down by how much is SOEs getting. Well, I can tell you, not a single cent. You know, the finance minister was holding the line yesterday. Not a cent for the post office, for Transnet, for nobody. And these were the things that used to dog the budget in previous years. So this was really, really a big one. And as Mandy and Tshidi have already explained, I think the details were withheld, and Treasury has also told us in that press conference yesterday that they believe that the leaks did not come from Treasury. But I think it was a complete misjudgment to think that they could not discuss these details. I mean, one wonders then what was discussed at the Lekgotla, and we understand not sharing too much details, but I think they going down to the wire like this yesterday with such a big shocker. I think it was a way too much of a big risk to have taken.
Yeah, and I went through this budget last night, and I mean, you could argue it was a pro-poor budget in a way, even though the disagreement can be on this 2% VAT. I mean, one of the things is that what the minister was offering in return was you VAT zero rate food items that were now going to be included, including meat products, sheep, poultry, goat, swine, and tinned vegetables, and dairy liquid blends. The fuel levy relief of 4 billion rand for consumers, social grants increases above inflation, and adjusted personal income tax. But was that going to be enough? Mandy Wiener, what does this moment mean for the Democratic Alliance? I tweeted yesterday and people didn't like it. I said, 5 words, give the DA a bells, because they deserved it yesterday. And I'll tell you why. Even though the ANC can want to argue that, but we had 3 or 4 or 10 ministers that were against it, the DA held the key, because this is not about a cabinet majority where even if the IFP or the PA or the ANC, all of you agree, the DA held the key in this context, because if they didn't vote and support this, they are supported by the MK party, they're supported by the EFF. You can come with your majority in cabinet, that budget is not going to pass.
So this is where the reality of sufficient consensus comes into play, right? That we speak about or hear about in the statement of intent, because ultimately, you can look at the billable, you can look at the Land Expropriation Act, you can look at all of these issues, right? But when it comes down to something like the budget, you need majority. The ANC does not have a majority. The ANC has become so used to untrammeled power and just passing a budget. And this is the new reality, is that they now require sufficient consensus in order to pass something. And the DA is its biggest GNU partner. You know, you can call it a coalition, whatever it may be. And the ANC just cannot steamroll anything through anymore. So this is the new reality that they're going to have to face. And I think that it was a political gamble to take it to the brink in this way. I think that they took the gamble. They thought the DA wouldn't hold the line. But again, and I really hear the point that everyone's saying it was also ANC ministers, Gayton McKenzie saying it was us too. I think the DA is just really good at marketing, right? So I'll give you an example. I had tweeted or posted on X about the fact that the DA had said it will not bend until it breaks. And I put up a post about this. Within about 10 minutes, that post had been made into a DA flyer that was distributed on the DA's marketing channels.
Trust the DA missionary.
And I was like, hey, like, I posted this on X, and like all of a sudden it's getting shared on the DA's marketing channels.
Got to be able to recognize that about the DA. Though.
They were so
Even
quick to claim victory here.
Even coming into government, they claim victory over programs that weren't there.
They're already existing.
You can't take that from them. The finesse and the ability to understand PR marketing, I could never take that.
And then I got an SMS. Other people got SMSs.
Saying what?
You know,
Saying what?
That the DA is. That somebody sent it to me. One of these SMSs saying that the DA had sent out to people.
Like what they used to send during elections.
They
Interesting.
still do that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They were very quick to capitalize on it.
Tshidi, I'm going to ask you a similar question to Mandy. What does this mean for the DA going forward? Because I think they're going to start using the budget as leverage, because the ANC has had its way since elections. Let's be honest. Have they really taken the DA seriously? The DA has always been shouting at the top of their lungs, we will leave if they sign the Bella Act.
Yeah, and the
ANC signs it.
people.
We will leave if they sign NHI. ANC signs it. They're still stuck there. Now the DA says, Now we will show
But
you.
wait, what you forget is that the NC's been gloating about how they've managed to hold on to power even at 40%.
Yeah.
They've managed to still
This
call
is
the
a
shots
moment.
at 40%. So it's a beautiful moment of reckoning for the ANC. From where I stand, it'll be interesting to see what the DA does with it. The DA has been consistently saying we don't want to be bystanders. And I think that's a legitimate point. You can't be a part of a coalition and then decisions are made outside of you. But what was interesting for me to see this morning, Emma Powell, who deals with international relations, this morning suddenly said, we are not bystanders. I'm like, how? Even now. So she's also got now a view. I wasn't too sure what she was speaking to, but she was speaking to issues around, obviously, US and South Africa relations. So they're finding their voices and getting stronger in demanding for more. So I think that the picture will be very interesting. The DA has been demanding to be heard, and they found really great leverage through the budget. And the timing is great because you can't see an EFF and an MK. I've always argued that they could get a sign-off, a trade-off with EFF and MK, but you can't see them also signing off on a VAT budget that's going to cripple households.
No ways.
It doesn't work. The moment was just, the ingredients were well in place for what the DA did.
Yeah. Lindsay, the ANC has had its way. The Bella Act, the NHI, expropriation. I mean, I can go on and on. Cabinet posts when the DA was opposing and saying, we need more, we need this. This is a moment for the DA. Whichever way you look at it, this is good PR for them.
Well, Clement, Tshidi might remember this. When we were at the convention centre for the first sitting of the new parliament, and that agreement, the statement of intent, was literally coming down to the wire to sign. If you were listening carefully, yes, you spoke about the acts being signed. Those who had the foresight of what was going to come, and this issue of sufficient consensus and supply and demand and all these terms that were being bandied about at the time, those who were looking down the road all said they need to work this out before the budget. The acts and the legislation and whatever, you can sort this out, but it's all going to come out in the wash at budget time. And here it is. This is what they called it from the very beginning. All the other things we can negotiate, we can work around, but the budget is the big ticket item where the agreement needs to be reached. And then to your point, and that's why, to agree with you, it was a massive, massive risk for the Treasury or the Finance Minister, whoever that was, to think that they could just dump this on a lap of 9 different political parties, and they were all going to go along with it. And so this is really the chickens coming home to roost, to not to have worked out. I mean, you know that the budget's coming. They should have worked this out a very, very long time ago as to what they were going to do, and not leave this to the 11th hour.
Yeah, someone has just forwarded that message you were talking about, Mandy. It was sent to some South Africans saying, victory for South Africa. The budget speech postponement has halted the ANC's crippling 2% VAT hike, protecting our economy and vulnerable households. The DA in the GNU will continue to fight for real economic growth, job creation, and financial stability. We say no to unfair tax hikes. Take a stand and sign our petition. Oh, there's a petition? Signed a petition today. We invite you to also join the fight by sharing this infographic and setting it as your profile picture. And that's the DA and how quick they are. This message was sent to a few people. Yes, I didn't even know there's a petition.
You didn't tell us it's a petition.
No, I didn't read it to the end.
Oh dear, it's 11:31. We'll probably have the final number soon, but Lindsay, you always see how these things are planned. I mean, and by the way, CD here as a politics editor has lost money on his budget, I'm sure. Herself. So
yesterday my
media
boss
houses,
said to me, we're going to Cape Town and March. I was like, with what money?
Exactly. So media houses, flights, Parliament, as they put up that marquee, it's so expensive, and then government itself has to fly all these ministers.
Isn't this the irony, right? This is the exact demonstration of what is infuriating South Africans. Is that if you say this, and I said this on social media yesterday, that we need to plug the deficit. So either we need to borrow money, we need to raise companies' taxes or personal taxes, or we need to increase VAT. Everybody's response is no, you actually need to cut expenditure. And the irony is this is exactly what happened yesterday, is this wasteful and fruitless expenditure.
Yeah. Lindsay?
I want to weigh in on that. Yes, maybe it's a little bit more of an extraordinary day, but we shouldn't compare this to something like the State of the Nation address. Let's not forget this is an event in an ordinary parliamentary week. MPs are expected here in Cape Town. There've been committee meetings happening since Monday. There were committee meetings happening yesterday morning before the sitting yesterday afternoon. Yes, the other sittings were called. Well, there aren't other sittings scheduled for the week in a budget week, but the business of Parliament is running. Everybody is in Cape Town. Everybody was expected to be in Cape Town. That dome has been set up particularly to save costs, so they don't have to hire a venue, hire the City Hall. It's going to be used ostensibly for at least 2 years while the build is in place. So yes, there were a couple of guests invited. Yes, there were catering for a couple of people. And yes, there would have been costs incurred. But it's not like everybody was flown down here specifically for a budget. The work of Parliament is ongoing. It continues today. I can tell you right at this moment that the ANC has called all their ministers together to meet their caucus. There are things happening. Thursday is traditionally a caucus day. All political parties huddle in their various places around the parliamentary precinct and talk about the business. So it's not like everybody came here specifically for a waste of 20 minutes yesterday afternoon. But Clement, I just quickly want to go back, and I'm not saying that this is going to find you the 58 billion rand or whatever it is that we need, but I think this again today also, or yesterday again, showed that promises that get made in the past that don't get delivered on. Yes, there's constantly this cut the fat, cut the cabinet, and it's not even a GNU cabinet that's bloated. President Cyril Ramaphosa promised to cut the cabinet a long time ago. When we were stuck in the middle of the crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic and there was no money, Tito Mboweni, the late finance minister, came to us and said zero-based budgeting. Anybody remember that? He said that back in 2021, I want to say. So that's at least 4 years ago. And the concept of that is instead of giving departments X amount of billions of rand to spend, to waste, to at the end of the year send back, not having spent, you start at zero. And you give out money as for every single project as it gets costed. Yes, they piloted that. It's a massive exercise to do. It would probably turned out to be too much to do. But these are kinds of things that maybe, I can't say for sure, I'm no economic expert, but maybe if we had implemented some of these promises, because back then, Tito Mboweni said, we need to do something, guys, to find money. The economy's not working. That was 4 years ago. But yet, here we are again, giving departments money that they're going to waste, that they're going to spend or not spend, and they have to send back, where maybe they should have followed through with that idea of zero-based budgeting.
Yeah, that would slow the delivery also of services as well. Already there's a whole red tape in government. Imagine if they have to be paid as per the services.
But think of all the money that gets tied up, that's sitting somewhere for weeks and months of the financial year that never get used. And at the end of the year, people are rushing to spend or do whatever or send it back. And maybe that could have been used in another way.
Yeah, Lindsay, Dentlinger, Tshidi Madia, Mandy Wiener, thanks to all of you for making time.